Hello and welcome to a just action-packed episode of Bodied, a Cloud9 Fancast. I'm your host Havokpus, and I'm joined by Frozencreek.
Hello. How's it going this week? Anything exciting?
A lot of exciting Cloud9 news happened, Frozen. That's for sure. A lot of big things popping and whatnot.
Yeah, some big impact news.
Yeah,
for better or for worse.
For better or worse. Before we get started, I just want to, I guess, first thing we can talk about is just mentioning that our WoW team is back in action. And they got second in the first North American Shadowlands, which is the new expansion, the new WoW expansion. The first cup that they did, they got second place, which is pretty good, especially considering it's their first cup. But they lost 3-4 to Kawi, which was actually it looks like the team that honestly gave them the most trouble. They beat them 3-2 in their top 8 match, and then they lost 3-4 in their grand finals match. So kind of sucks that they only got second, but second's still pretty good, all things considered.
Yeah. This is their first tournament in a while, correct?
Yeah. They haven't played in a while, so it's mostly just good to see that the WoW team is still together and they have once again started playing. And I'm sure they'll probably get in gear for the next one and win it. I'm not sure what has changed in terms of the meta and what's good and whatnot, and itemization wise. I know each patch probably it's a nightmare for WoW players having to figure out okay, so my trinkets aren't good anymore, and I have to get all this other gear and figure out if the stuff that I'm using is optimal or not. And it sounds like it's just a pain in the ass.
Oh yeah, I mean, honestly, I thought that they just played the same comp every time, and that the game didn't really change all that much. So I guess I don't pay enough attention to WoW.
I think it's more of probably more from an itemization standpoint. I mean, it's I know they probably do very subtle changes with how classes function and how spells interact. But I imagine WoW balancing is really weird because you have to take into account that rating is a thing. So you have to balance it for that, along with the sort of competitive PvP aspect, and being hey, we also kind of have to make sure that this isn't overpowered. So it's probably difficult to balance, but I imagine it's a thing of very tiny variations in how spells are tweaked, and then just the how what items are really made, and how what sort of what their benefits are versus other items.
Yeah, of course, that makes sense. I mean, I've never played WoW before. You even the WoW actual games, not WoW Arena. So
yeah, I've never played PvP either. It seems something that would be fun to get into.
Yeah. Very expensive though.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why I am out on WoW.
Yeah. But hopefully they'll get them next time. But moving on, I guess, to our first big ticket news item is that Woxic of the CSGO team has officially left the roster. This is not probably how we expect, or maybe it is how we expected the CSGO roster to go, if I'm being completely honest. But you drop maybe $1 million contract on this guy, and you're before the team is assembled, you have Henry hyping up him and this team, and then all of a sudden things aren't working, and then it's hey, we're gonna have to get rid of this guy. And it's like, okay, first the coach, now this. I'm sensing we're just doing what we've always done with CSGO, but just spending way more money.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate, but I do like the commitment by Henry and Jack to build a good CSGO team. And obviously something wasn't working because he was let go relatively quickly. I think we were talking about him.
Yeah, we were talking about rumors of like roster changes like last episode.
And this roster is what, 6 months old almost? No, not even 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, it's so they got together. They played in like late October, early November, I think.
Yeah, so I feel like changes now are probably when they would happen for the roster because they've had time to work together and such. So they know who is going to perform and who isn't, and who is committed to this project for the next year or so. So I'm not that surprised that someone had to leave, but I do agree that it is kind of odd that
I
they
think
spent
that
so much and there was like, all right, fine, bye.
I think it may definitely have to do with Woxic's personality because he had similar personality issues, and everything when he was on Mouse, and that's why he was kind of benched from Mouse. And Henry's statement's really weird because he even says, like, as a team, we were unable to overcome various challenges that affected his performance that included an unreliable high ping and not to mention a compromising time zone. It was clear that this was a very demotivating period for him. We approached with many resolutions to these problems, but unfortunately the logistics of overcoming them were almost insurmountable. So it seems like that's a really weird reason. And it seems kind of like a reason that you'd give to kind of sweep actual problems on the rug and say like, oh, it was just these things, and we just couldn't make it work out, when it may very well be just, he was having personality conflicts with other players, and it was maybe a thing of just what was going on in Mouse kind of repeating itself, or maybe he just doesn't like playing online events with how COVID is, and he can't go to LANs, no one can do LANs, and maybe he's just like a LAN player and he just can't, like function as like an onliner, like who knows, but it feels like this statement is kind of misdirecting from what's actually going on.
Yeah, and I think that just goes to show that this was a team-wide issue with Woxic as opposed to just a Woxic issue, because it is a team game, and at the end of the day, if he can't perform a role inside of the team, then there are going to be issues, and changes will have to be made. I do think it is a good statement of intent, though, that if you're not going to come to work each day and perform, then you might be let go.
Yeah, I agree there. And I think that this is also just proving that there is going to be challenges with this sort of online, everyone has to kind of stay home kind of era, where just issues of participating in things like, like everyone has different time zones. So like if someone's just in a place that's like, look, doing this match is really hard for me because I have to either wake up super early, stay up super late, like regardless, it makes things kind of difficult. If Henry's statement is like super genuine, then, it's just kind of like, there's nothing you can do unless Woxic was just like, oh, I could move to a place that has better ping in Europe, that kind of deal. But yeah, it really sucks, and there's probably a lot of layers to this that we're just not, being let on. So we may never know the full reason until probably like months later or something.
Yeah, just like on the whole Fortnite thing. So it's just one of those things, I guess.
Yeah. But anyway, moving on, we got some Valorant stuff to kind of be hyped about, Frozen.
Hell yeah.
So the blue team, we can start with the blue team. the blue team participated in the Nerd Street Gamer Winter event, and they put on a show. They wowed people in the group stage. Zeta, the 200 ping warrior, was playing from Korea and on like 200 ping, and he was still crushing it and playing like he was operating on like normal ping. And Leaf was looking a lot better. He looked improved from when last we saw him play with the team, which is really good. So it feels like this team is actually really coming together. And I would really like to see this like entire squad just play together for a while, because it looks like they have elevated themselves just from a strategic sense, because it's like, okay, we don't longer have to baby tens and like let him have a lot of sway with how the team plays, because he's like the star player. Now is okay, we can focus on strategy, we can focus on our other good players like Mitch and Leaf and Relics being able to frag out while also being like strategically, layered and a bit more complex. And it definitely worked. I believe we got to like the quarterfinals. We lost our quarterfinal match, but the fact that I think going in we weren't expecting to perform at all is I think is a real accomplishment, and it got a lot of people really excited for this team.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to watch it, or I guess I did watch part of.
You watched like one game, I think.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, and I do think it's super impressive that they were able to compete and perform over such ping issues. I'm not sure if there are language issues there, but
Zeta's English is actually fairly good. Mitch was doing a stream and he was answering some questions, and he said that Zeta's English is actually pretty good, because I think he used to play for Tyloo, which is like I think it's a Chinese CS:GO team, and just being in CS, he probably got to learn English, and he can, it was clear from watching the games there was not a lot of language issues or communication issues. Everyone seemed to be on page for the most part.
All right, well that's good, but I also don't feel like it is a long-term solution to the issue.
No. I think Mitch also said that they're working on trying to get Zeta a visa and to get him, in the country like as quickly as possible, because I think with after we played and how the team looked, I think the team really wants to play with Zeta, and so I think that Cloud9 is going to try to make that happen as quickly as possible, because I think that with this configuration, how we have it right now, we have a lot to potentially be back as a top team, and Zeta is definitely looking like one of the best breaches. If he's playing in NA, he's looking like one of the best breaches in NA. So I see no reason why not to try and get Zeta in North America playing with the team and screaming on better ping and at a functional time zone where he's not having to probably operate on Korea time while everyone else is playing on American time.
Yeah, that's true. He was probably like playing at like 5-6 a.m. in Korea, so that's not ideal for him. And neither is all that ping in a game where milliseconds can change the tide of a round. So
yeah, even the casters were saying, watching him, like he would kind of like rubber band places when they were trying to observe him.
Oh yeah.
Because so I imagine it was like really tough for him, but the fact that the team was able to perform fairly well even with him having such like ping issues, I think it's just amazing.
Yeah, it's super impressive, and it makes me more interested to watch a Worlds like event, because if he can perform super well from Korea, like how good are these Korean teams match up against the West?
Yeah, exactly. I wish we didn't have to get rid of our Korean team. I really like them, but there is also somewhat of a development for the blue team for the upcoming Valorant Challengers qualifier, and that is that Poise, who is a player that everyone knows is fairly good. He is listed as part of the roster. So currently, and there's like this picture. There's Mitch, Poise, Relics, Zeta, Leaf. We have 2 Vices. I don't know why they're listed as 2 Vices, but one of his is Leaf, and then another is Vice. So we have 6 people. It could be implied that Poise is going to play with the team if Zeta can't make it, so he's kind of like a sub. It could be that maybe we're going to try out Poise and Leaf is going to sit out, because if we're trialing players, it would kind of make no sense to, just, okay, well, we look good with Leaf, we'll keep Leaf. If Poise can do better, maybe have Poise in the roster instead of Leaf, and then have the other 4 play. So it could be that. It's a really interesting thing to happen. I haven't, there's been no statements as to what's going on with the Valorant roster. I think they're playing it pretty close to themselves. So until we get like an official statement of like what's going on with the team or who's getting signed or what, we can only speculate on how this team is going to be rounding out officially.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's tough to get a visa right now for a Valorant player from Korea. So I'm assuming that plays into the calculus.
Yeah, for sure. There's probably like there's a lot of angles probably that's going on that's at play here, but I'm excited to see what the blue team does next, especially after their kind of bounce back after 10 stepping down. I think everyone was going into the Nerd Street event thinking like, oh well, C9's just blue team's just done. You lost your star player. However will they recover? It turns out we have a lot more good players, and we were kind of, in a sense, being suppressed by the fact we were having to give all our resources and attention, everything to tens rather than spreading it around with our other really talented players.
Yeah, I partially do agree with that, but I wonder how we would have performed if tens was there.
No, for sure. That's always going to be a question, and I think that is a fair point.
But I think under the circumstances that the blue team performed very admirably and gave us a lot of hope.
Yes, I agree. But also, still talking about Valorant, we got the white team, and the white team, they were kind of putting on a clinic, Frozen. They were participating in the WSOE qualifier event, and not yesterday, but the day before, they were playing like off-stream matches like almost all day. They were kind of crushing it. They beat Renegades, and there's this really now like infamous clip of Mel just like going off on the Renegades because like the people are kind of talking trash about our team, but she's like, "Oh, you think we're trash, but then we just beat Renegades? Oh fuck you, And she's super hype, and it's great. But they played some matches yesterday, and they unfortunately lost to them. One was against Elysium, and Elysium was just looking super hot. They were just hitting their shots to such a fervent degree that like we were just losing numbers like so quickly. It seemed impossible that we were going to win that one. And then we played a second match to try, because we went from like upper semis to, you had to go to the losers bracket. We played the losers bracket, and then we lost that game to Big Frame, and that was a 10-13 loss. That's really close. So it's unfortunate that the ladies lost, because I was super hyped for them, especially after they were just like beating the snot out of all these other teams, and they beat Renegades too. So it was like, okay, we're gonna qualify for this event, and we're gonna come in with some hype, come in with some heat. But we unfortunately had some crucial losses, and we got out of the qualifier. So unfortunate, but I am super proud of the team for putting on the show that they did, and show that they can be competitive, especially when things are clicking. They actually had a sub in for these games, but they looked pretty good.
Yeah, I actually didn't get to watch this, but after you said that Mel's reaction to beating Renegades went slightly viral, I found it. I haven't listened to it yet.
It's great.
I found a transcript of it, and yeah, it is pretty hype.
It's hilarious. Yeah, a lot of the matches were off stream. Like they just weren't streamed. So like, you know, I'd just be watching Twitter and I'd see Mel tweet like, "Yeah, we beat this team. We're moving on. We're moving up." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." And then I just wait, and then I'd see Mel tweet again. And so it was kind of like that for a lot of it, which is really annoying. I hate when qualifier tournaments do this, where like you have like way more teams than you have access to like streaming channels, and most, if not all, of the matches just don't get shown, and it's like that's unfair. You know,
Yeah.
I want to watch our team play. I want to see some of these other teams play. You know, don't do that. You know, you should. I feel like this qualifier wasn't that good. Also, a lot of these matches were best of ones. Like the semifinals matches, Frozen, they were best of ones. Like a semifinal, even if it's a qualifier, it's still a qualifier, and you know you're going into like a bracket stage where you're going into like upper and lower bracket semifinals, and it's a best of one. Like that's a trash format. Like I don't know who thought that is a good choice.
Yeah, that's not ideal for trying to find like the best team in
No,
a
it's
qualifier
really not. I hate best of ones, especially in games like Valorant and shooters where it's like rounds can be really swingy, so you have to play multiple games to really determine who's the best team. You know, it's just, it sucks. I think if the team was able to play a best of 3, they probably could have at least beaten the team they lost to in the lower bracket, and they probably could have at least went on to the lower bracket finals to get another chance at qualifying.
Yeah, so I didn't see it, so I don't know, but I do agree. I wish all these sports, were best of 3.
Yeah.
Looking at you, Riot.
Yeah, it's really just
Still.
the optimal format. But anyway, we can move on to League of Legends. Let's I want to talk about the Academy team just a little bit. They played their first match actually yesterday, which was Wednesday, January 20th. And they had a kind of a big brain strategy going on.
Yeah. Comp was super wild.
It was kind of dirty, actually. Like I was watching it in the early game, and they were kind of getting, you know, like beaten up. And I'm just thinking, like, man, you know, all you got is Graves, Camille, and Zoe. This Seraphine's not doing almost any damage, and Janna can only do so much. You know, you guys are kind of just getting run over here by the, you know, you let Kaisa go through, and Kaisa's like super busted right now, and you know, Babip on Lilia was putting in a lot of work with those big multi-man sleeps. You know,
Yeah,
they also had Alistar for
All-Star was
yeah, Fizzy was nuts on Alistar. He was like almost carrying the team on his back with those, like, I think he hit multiple 5-man knockups. So it was like, okay, well, this game's doomed. The Moonstone water staff.
Moonstone Renewer.
Moonstone Renewer, yeah.
Yeah.
That 2-item combo with the Seraphine and the Janna, it came online eventually, and when it did, the amount of damage that they put out and the amount of healing that they got that TSM Academy had to cut through was so insane. The game literally flipped on its head, and C9 just like it's like they flipped a switch and still like, okay, it's our game now. And they just had every advantage. You know, they got Mountain Soul, they were able to get Barons, like any objective pretty much uncontested. You know, the Seraphine, like long range, you know, her ult's like really long, so she just hits these charms on like Babip and Cody Sun or Sword, and they just melt instantly, and it's just like, oh, okay, so that's why I chose this comp. And they played the long con, and they were able to turtle enough, and they pulled it off. King got 20 assists that game. He was 1-1-20.
Yeah, King was great. Copy played a really good game.
Copy was absolutely insane. I was blown away by his Zoe and his ability to land sleeps in the Paddle Stars. He got like a triple kill at one point when we lost like a sword fight. and he kind of like kept
right?
us. He kind of kept us in that game with that triple, and it was pretty insane.
Yeah, if Copy didn't pop off for like 25 minutes, I think that was an easy loss.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think the
But
Academy team, they should be really proud of how they played today, or yesterday, I'd say.
yeah, King's first game back in NA, and the support, I forgot his name,
Isles.
solo killed Lucian at one point.
Yeah, he did. He stayed behind and
Super
he
hype.
killed Lucian, which is hilarious.
Yep, super hype. But I think it was a good first time out.
Yeah.
I'm not sure when they play next because they could play tonight on Thursday.
We will have to see. I'm sure we will get an update. But yeah, I agree. Super great first showing. I think that, especially for, this is not our old Academy team that we can expect to go in and dominate, right? We don't have a Nori anymore. We don't have Palafox or Diamond, or Fudge, so we're having like a whole new group of guys that have never really played together before. Darshan and Shrinefire definitely have LCS experience, but they've never played on the same team, and King kind of had to take like a year off, due to the plague, so he couldn't, he just couldn't play with his team really. And I'm not sure if King ever played with Isles before. I'd have to look and see if he did in the OCE, and Copies, he was in Scouting Grounds, wasn't he? So he was fairly new, just in general.
Yeah, and so we do play tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time against CLJ Academy, who their only familiar name to me is Brandini.
Okay.
So they lost to 100 Thieves Academy yesterday, but they also have our Ryoma, Poom, Kenvi, and Tenacity.
That's kind of a stacked Academy team.
Yeah, it is.
That's kind of not fair.
Ours is also stacked, but
yes. But let's move on to the lock-in tournament. Interesting results, I think, across the board in the tournament. I think from C9 specifically, we did not have a good opening game against EG, but I think our comp kind of did that to us, especially with, I will say that it did suck that we, especially for Perks, that he lost his opening match, but this is a team that's probably been practicing for like 2 weeks. Like Perks, I think, got in the country maybe like 2-3 weeks ago. So they probably haven't had a lot of practice together. I think a lot of other teams are in the same boat, or teams are just missing players. And, EG is one of the teams that not only had their roster already completed, for the most part, it's pretty much the same roster. So they have a lot of synergies already kind of built in. So I think it's kind of fair that we lost, but we looked really good against FlyQuest and Immortals. Those other two games were kind of the old C9 that we kind of know and love from spring, where they would just dominate everybody just mercilessly.
Yeah, and I think that first game did have a lot to do with the comp, but I also think that Jizuke and Impact played phenomenally well, and definitely, who has 100% win rate at Worlds, performed very well too. So
they had such an OP comp. Evil Geniuses had they had Renekton, they had Graves, they had Kaisa.
Yeah.
They just had like 3 or 4. They had 3 of the 4 like champions that are being regarded as like these super power, OP power picks in League of Legends right now. So I'm kind of not surprised that we lost, given how much. Oh, they had Galio too, which Galio I think was the big killer for us, because our comp was all about just kind of diving and going in. When the amount of disengage that Galio has with his kit, you can't really go in on anybody, and Renekton can just flank and kill you, especially with how far ahead he was. So the draft kind of put us in maybe a rough spot, but yeah.
Yeah, I think the draft is what killed us, but I think that Evil Genius has played well enough to win that either way. There were a few points, like Jizuke's like 3-man Syndra stun from the dark
Yeah.
at River was really big. And it just felt like the boys were out there playing for fun rather than playing to win at that point. And I think it was a good awakening call, and a lot of people have kind of doomed Cloud9 because of it, which is kind of bizarre.
I think it's ridiculous because this is preseason. Like, these matches don't even matter. Like,
yeah, exactly.
anyone who watches football, you see, like, you'll see like the Patriots or like maybe the Chiefs will lose a game, 2 games maybe, out of like the 2 or 3 weeks, or maybe 4. I'm not sure how many they do, because I think it maybe always changes each season. But they'll play like 2 to 3 games for the preseason. The Chiefs will maybe lose 2 games, and it's like, oh, why? It's like, oh, Patrick isn't playing, or they're wanting to have their guys not hurt, and they're wanting to feel out how the rest of the team is doing. That's literally what preseason is for. Like, these matches really don't matter. Like, it would be good us to come out and stun on everybody, and we're just manhandling people. But I think this is really good just to kind of get a feel of, okay, here's where the game is at, and here's what people are playing. Here are some issues that we encountered with sort of how we're practicing and the approach that we took in these games that we won and lost, and you can really tighten things up for when the season officially starts. So I think that people kind of like, it's frustrating, and especially since like Perks is there, and you have Fudge like super trash talking everybody and say like, oh, I'm gonna fucking crush it, when he didn't really have a super big showing him by himself personally. I totally get that that's frustrating, but I think in the preseason you can't really speak a lot on it.
Yeah, and I think it's way too early to just say Fudge is doomed or Cloud9 is overrated and such, because I thought that EVA Genius has actually looked really good. My hot take from the first week is that EVA Genius is going to make Worlds, because
I can see that.
I think they removed a lot of their variants from last year. The jungle look decent. Impact is going to hold them to a minimum of 5th place. I think just by being Impact, and if Jizuke and Definitely can just be good, then I think this team has like the ceiling to go far. And I think based on what we saw, their floor is not quite as low as I was anticipating. I do think they're going to lose some dumb games and ultimately like finish 4th or 5th in the regular season. But I think that this is a top 3 tournament team.
Oh,
so
yeah, I agree.
Take.
I think that, and we know since Impact played for us, we know that when Impact is on form, he immediately elevates the level the team can play. And I remember playing, when he was looking like how he played on Renegades against us, we looked super good. So Impact for sure definitely has that elevating factor. I can definitely see Evil Geniuses being a super tough team, especially if they manage to hold out their form for the whole year and to get to the summer playoffs and compete to try to go to Worlds. I can definitely see them being as a contender, because they played really good. I think conversely, TSM maybe not looking so hot. Their struggles to kind of draft and play around Huni seem to really be kind of backing them into a really awkward position.
Yeah, I am still a little bit high on them. I think Huni's gonna improve once this team starts to work together more, and I think having Sword Art there is going to elevate them a lot higher than they should be. Kind of like the FlyQuest effect last year. Just a team that on paper, quote unquote, is not good, even though they actually were good on paper. But
Right.
I think Sword Art is going to solve a lot of issues for them, like Core JJ has for Team Liquid. I don't think that they're going to be a Worlds team, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were.
Yeah, there are a lot of teams that I think have a lot of question marks, mostly just because we haven't seen a lot of their full rosters play. Like Immortals is playing maybe with like 2 to 3 of their academy players. Like CLG, like Brox is not going to be here till February. So they've been having to play with Wiggly, who changed his name to Griffin, which, as an aside, I think.
Oh yeah.
So as an aside, I think it's really dumb to change your name. Like once you go into LCS, that's your branding. I think you can't go by Wiggly for like 2 to 3 years and then just change your name to Griffin. Because I just saw Griffin and I assumed, oh, it's some new guy. And that I think that completely kills all of your branding. I think it immediately hurts you on a teams will sign me kind of moment, because it's like they've heard of Wiggly. They can at least put a face to the name and go like, okay, I know Wiggly. I know how he plays. Watching him play this year, he has improved. Maybe I can sign him. With Griffin, it's like, I've never heard of this Griffin guy. I don't know if I should sign him. He seems kind of like an unknown. I think that I hate when players do that, because I think it kills your branding. And I feel like it kind of like sinks your stock that teams want to take in you. Unless you're like Darshan, who he was able to change his name, but everyone already knows him so much that it didn't matter. But for Wiggly, someone who is not, he doesn't have that high of a profile versus someone like Darshan, you can't really do that.
I mean, I wouldn't say Wiggly has a high profile. He was kicked out of LCS because he was garbage, and maybe this is his attempt to try and rebuild himself. But I don't think it makes a big deal, because Jensen used to be Incarnation. Sven had a different name back in his.
Well, Jensen, I think, to be fair for Jensen, he changed his name pretty much like the first, like after he came in like that summer split, he changed his name immediately. So that's fine. He is relatively new. I think that it kind of bugs me when it's like you're there for 2 or 3 years. Like there was I can't remember who Cold was before. Cold had a name before.
Cold?
He was from EU. He's like.
He's in NA now?
No. He's an EU player. He used to go by. Change his name. I'm trying to find out what he.
Honestly, I have no clue.
Hold on.
Which I guess proves your point.
No, yeah, like he played for like Splice. Let's see.
Oh. Amazing.
No, it's not amazing.
Oh, okay, because there is a Cold.
He's a jungler.
Who's on OMG now. He's Chinese. He used to go by Amazing. He's on.
It's Trashy. OMG. That's what it was.
Trashy.
He went by Trashy, and then he changed his name to Cold. And when he changed his name, I had no idea who he was. And it's kind of like that thing where it's like, you should have just really stuck with Trashy, because everyone knows who you are. And that's just my thing. I just really hate seeing shit like that happen, because it's like, you really had some recognizable, ability there, and then you change your name and it's just like, who's this new guy? I don't know them, and then you just lose interest when it's like, oh, that's Trashy, or that's Wiggly. I think that's just this segment's going on way too long. This is kind of a hot take.
I have a real hot take that matters. No offense.
Okay, yeah. Let's move on to
point, but I don't think.
No, this is very inconsequential. Let's get back on track with perhaps a good hot take.
Okay, I think FlyQuest is at best a bottom 14.
Okay, what is your reasoning?
I thought going into, I remember I said this to you, that I think FlyQuest is is overrated. I'm not sure if it was caught on audio or not.
I can't remember.
I said it last week that I don't think FlyQuest is going to be that good. And my reasoning is I don't think Licorice is a leader of men in the same way that other players might be. My evidence for this is based off the fact that part of the reason that we remade our League of Legends roster after 2019 was because Licorice wanted a new roster and a new ADC, so we brought in Sven, and we brought in Vulcan. And we brought in Vulcan, I think, at that time too, because he wasn't happy with the bot lane. And then, so he was kind of like a leader on our team last year, and he was one of the reasons that we fell off so hard in the second half of the split, because he thought that he was the best top laner and solo queue was too good for him and all this other stuff. And I don't think that he's a good role model in leader for younger players who need someone like Impact or Core JJ on their team to show them what being a professional is like.
I can somewhat see that. I think mostly I can see that maybe even from, I was gonna say experience, but he's been playing for a little while now. Yeah, I don't know. I think that I would say FlyQuest maybe more just has issues in that they have Palafox and Diamond, who they've never played in LCS before. And they have Jose Dioto, who they didn't even play with because he wasn't there. So that's kind of another unknown.
Yeah, but I don't think Jose Dioto is going to come in and make this team good.
No, he's not going to be a deciding factor. I agree. He's not going to be
make them better, but it's not like they're bringing in Core JJ or they're bringing in Broxa or they're bringing in Santorin or something like someone who's like a proven NA jungler. I guess not Broxa, but someone who's proven to be good.
Right.
And I'm not sold on them. And I know I've said that they have a sneaky good roster, but I think they've been blown up to the point that they are terribly overrated.
Yeah, I can kind of see it. I think there are a few question marks that we don't know how they'll really operate. Like Johnson's the only other kind of LCS player, and Johnson's really good AD carry. Not saying he's trash or anything, but I think that you can't, like, a good AD carry does a team not make. I can definitely see where you're coming from and saying, like, if Licorice is the only sort of tent pole to kind of operate around the team, I can see how this team can kind of fall apart, if he struggles to kind of lead people and get the team going in a certain direction. I can kind of see it. I don't know how he operates outside of the game, but I can kind of see it.
Yeah, and that's why I don't think they're going to be good. That's my other hot take after EG going to Worlds. But do you have anything?
No, I don't have anything else.
All right, then I guess we can talk about the Immortals and FlyQuest games super quickly.
Yeah, those teams are.
We should also talk about Fudge too.
Yeah, I wanted to bring him up too because
let's talk about those two games first, and then talk about Fudge.
Well, I was gonna say that I really don't have anything for those two games because those were just stomps. I mean, we literally came in swinging with, I think, a really good game plan, draft wise. We had really good conditions set up from draft. I think also definitely keep trying to give Vulcan Alistar because he looks really, really good on it. And basically just playing around each other and playing around our kits in a way that actually work. really well together, and we just crushed them. Especially like Immortals, who's operating at like half capacity or whatever, and FlyQuest. I think we just outplayed them. So it's those are my thoughts. Like I said, I didn't have anything really for it.
Yeah, I thought that Blabber was insane. There were a couple stupid deaths throughout that, but I think the biggest takeaway I took from the games is that Insanity might actually be decent.
He looked really good, yeah.
And like, he did his job well for a while, and then the team just kind of fell apart around him, including Keith, who proved yet again why he
you really don't like. You really like Keith.
I mean, after I shit on Keith and Huhi for so long, I have to move all that Huhi hate to Keith because
Huhi's good now,
decent. So sorry, Keith.
You can't say he's bad anymore.
So yeah, sorry, Keith, former Cloud9 guy, but somebody has to do it. I think what the main talking points that come out of the weekend is that Fudge is doomed to be just bad, and he's going to hold Cloud9 back from being good. And I think that is probably the most ridiculous take yet, because this is an 18-year-old who has been in NA since the very end of 2019, and he's only been on Cloud9 for total, according to Gamepedia, for a year, not counting off season. It sounds like. So his first NA split was last year in Academy. Then he got straight up promoted from Academy to Cloud9 this split.
Right.
So
yeah, I think that
there's going to be a learning curve.
Yeah, like plus he has to get used to playing against all the LCS players, because I think that when watching Academy, his skill level was definitely above Academy. So, he
100%.
He had to get moved up. I think he's going to have to learn how to play against a new skill, range. I think also he's just going to have to get used to playing maybe a different game. Watching the Academy games, the team looked a little bit more together than how the LCS team wants to play, where LCS, the main roster is really more dictated about how Blabber plays, and everyone kind of trying to play around that, and maybe with the addition of Perks trying to play around mid lane a bit more. Because with how bot lane is playing, you can just probably leave bot lane alone. Or actually, no, help bot lane so they can get ahead because they're playing really good. So don't touch, don't abandon them, please. But, I think that with how we're playing, we can probably play bottom half of the map, just play around Perks and give resources to bot lane as well. Honestly, you just have to make sure Fudge doesn't int and kill himself a lot. And he just has to stay in the game and go even, maybe a bit behind in lane. And he just has to play around the team. I think that he's definitely looking for his sort of big moment to kind of make big plays and improve himself. And I think that's probably going to happen. I think we just have to be patient and let him gel more with the team. I don't want to count Fudge out after 3 preseason games that don't matter.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it was partially to do with how Reaper would have handled the situation on stage. When Lakers came in and Kumo came in for that one weekend or two, we changed our game style to play completely around top lane.
Yeah.
I know Kumo played Jace and Aatrox, I believe. When Aatrox was busted. And then Lakers played a decent amount of Jace at the beginning. And it didn't matter if they were good or not, but like the whole game was focused around keeping them up and ahead. And now with Rain over, like, they just said, hey, Fudge, just pick someone who, if you get camped, like, you can still be relevant on.
Right.
And just do as well as you can. And I think the first game was a good sign of that and what we might see going forward, because Svenskeren was camping for impact to the point of
Oh yeah, he basically lived up there.
Fudge, you could just sit at his tier 2 turret and just stand there and wait for a wave to come to him because he was so zoned off. And like at that time, it is what it is. Like it's better than him getting 6 CS and dying and losing turret. So I don't think he was good by any means, but I think that his demise is greatly exaggerated.
No, I think that's very fair. I think that we shouldn't count Fudge out yet. He didn't have, him nor I think maybe Perks also, they didn't have the biggest breakout performances, but this is a new team. Like you're going to have to give them time to gel. They didn't, outside of the Evil Geniuses game, which was super messy. It's not like they've been just like feeding their asses off and looking like washed up trash. They, in the games they won, they look good. I think Fudge even played the disadvantageous matchup of Aatrox into Jace fairly well. He wasn't getting solo killed, right? He'd go and fight and then he'd get kind of poked down and then he'd be like, okay, I'll back off and just try to wait until I get some healing items to abuse. And he played that pretty much how you would play Aatrox into Jace. So, it's not like they're playing super bad.
Yeah, and I can't think of any like egregious mistakes that he made. Like he played his tank okay. Like it wasn't a world beater. He probably could have zoned a little bit better and such, but I thought he was fine. And he came into he came into a team of veterans who have like been to Worlds Finals and won MSI and have won at NA and such. And he's just this 18-year-old who from Australia, like being thrown into the deep end, and it's not an ideal situation for, or well, I guess it's ideal in the fact that there's no expectations for him,
right?
But like, it's not ideal to be thrown into that kind of power structure either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's. I think that's
feel like his voice is not important because why would you argue with Perks, who has won MSI and has all these accolades, and Sven, who's gone to Worlds Finals, I think, with Origin. Mm-hmm. So I still have a lot of hope for him, and I think that his doom is greatly exaggerated, and I still think Cloud9 is going to win the Lock and Turn tournament.
Yeah, I guess pivoting from that, we do have one final match in the group stage, which is Dignitas. We got to go up against them, and they've only beaten FlyQuest.
Yeah.
I gotta look at I gotta pull up the roster. Heck.
Yeah.
I don't like, everyone is swapped around, so I don't know who's on what team anymore.
They have Aframu, Dardock, Fake Gods Saligo, and Spawn.
I think that might be it. I know that watching the Dig games, they looked okay. Like in the games that they lost, it looks like they kind of had it up until kind of the last moment where they kind of make too many mistakes, and then the other team kind of gets the control of the game. Dardock and Aframu definitely seem to be sort of the decision makers on that team. So honestly, I think as long as you just can kind of keep them from getting picks that can really influence the game and make it so they can't have like a really good foothold in things, we can pretty much win. I don't think that. I don't think how our lanes match up. I don't think that we're playing at any sort of disadvantage. Like, Perk should be able to just beat the utter snot out of Saligo. Sven and Vulcan are going to crush Neo and Aframu. With how they have been playing just on an individual basis, there is no way they get crushed. And then I think Blabber can at least go toe to toe with Dardoch, and since they have kind of similar aggressive mindsets, I think if Blabber can just play smarter, he can easily beat Dardoch, and we can just let Fudge and the Fake God matchup kind of go to the wayside and just see whoever is stronger.
Yeah, and even if Fudge gets a tank or something, like, it's not really a big deal.
Yeah.
So I don't have many expectations for Dig this lock-in.
No.
But I think the game that we need to really be looking forward to is the Evil Geniuses game. They are playing FlyQuest. So, or no, I think Evil Geniuses is locked in first, no matter what.
Yeah, I believe they are locked in first. Yeah, it would be if we win this match, we advance. I think we may have to play a tiebreaker, maybe. If we lose,
I don't think there's tiebreakers. I think if Dig were to beat us, they would be 2-2, and so would we. So they would get the tiebreaker, I think, is how it would work.
That makes no sense. That's not how a tiebreaker works.
Why? They beat us.
Well, it's one match.
So
if we're tied 2-2, we'd have to play another game.
Why?
Because we're both 2-2. We have to have another win to see who can go.
But if they beat us already, so they get the tiebreaker.
Oh, I'm saying they have to beat us again.
Why?
Because they got to prove that they can beat us.
So they prove that they can beat us, but that's not good enough to be better.
Yes, because then we're not in the playoffs.
No, the playoffs are top 4 teams advance.
Oh, whatever.
So top 4 teams advance. We would just go down to 3rd seed.
Oh. Okay, well, never mind then.
Go up to 2nd seed. And right now, as 2nd seed, we would be playing 100 Thieves, and as 3rd seed, we'd be playing Team Liquid.
Okay. I didn't know that's how the formatting works.
Yes.
They're doing it kind of weird.
Yeah. So the quarters take place on Saturday and Sunday, and they're best of 3s, and then the semis are next weekend, and then the finals are the weekend after that, I believe.
Oh, okay, interesting. They're really going.
Yeah, it should not be this long. They should have finished the group games on Monday.
They really should have played Monday to do the group
quarters
games
on Friday and Saturday, semis on Sunday, and then had the finals of the weekend after, and cut off a weekend. But whatever, not my prerogative. But
yeah, we're not in charge of scheduling.
So we need to win this game.
Yes, I would like to win, please.
And we would get the lowest rated team of TSM, Team Liquid, and 100 Thieves.
Yeah.
So we would get the worst, quote unquote, of them, and I think I would rather play TSM of those 3.
I would too. Well, 100 Thieves is looking pretty good. They look kind of scary.
Yeah.
Shout out to the 100 Thieves podcast, by the way.
Currently, they're 3rd in their group, I guess, which doesn't make sense because they lost to CLG, not to TSM or Team Liquid, so they beat both of them. So this might not actually be updated to tiebreakers because they should be above both TSM and Team Liquid, I think, or at least Team Liquid because they beat Team Liquid and and TSM, I think. So yeah, so the Group A standings probably aren't updated to tiebreakers, but by other means, because that doesn't make sense. But we will play them on Saturday or Sunday, depending on how it all works out. But we don't know yet. And these 3 teams are tied, so we don't have a way to know until Friday. But I think I would rather play TSM then 100 Thieves, then Team Liquid. I want to save Team Liquid for as late as possible.
Yeah, I definitely agree with your sentiments there.
But I want to play all three of them eventually, though.
Yeah, for sure.
Just to see how we stack up. But I think that's about it for this week.
Yeah, I can't think of anything else.
Yeah, we went on long enough about name changes, so I think we're good.
Yeah. One thing that isn't changing is our Twitter handle. Be sure to follow us at C9Bodied to get in on all of the action. Sometimes we tweet things, and you can hit us up. And thanks for listening. We'll see you again next time.
Wait, one last thing. I think I'm gonna change my name from Frozencreek to Creek.
No.
Yeah, because you always call me Frozen.
Boo.
And if I took that out of my name, then I would still kind of be the same name, but it would be wrong based on what you call me.
Boo.
All right, fine.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.